Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I figured I'd jump on real quick, get the morning update out of the way. That way I can get out to Zorro Ranch and the Santa Fe Institute today before I sit down with my final two sources tonight. So, we're going to jump right into the article today. And the article has to do with Jes Staley again and Barclays and how they're being attacked from the inside of the boardroom by an activist investor. And this is what I've told you folks about with Jes Staley, how there was no way he was going to make it to 2021. And this is one of the main reasons. The Bramson an activist investor, and through his investment group, they own 5.5% of the shares of Barclays. So he is a pretty powerful guy in the boardroom, and previously he had led an insurrection to try and change things with Jes Staley and get him out. And now he is on the attack once again, and this time he's firing with both pistols. And he should be, because Jes Staley has no business being the CEO of Barclays, considering his ties with Jeffrey Epstein. But I told you that Staley wasn't long for this world. I told you that there's no way that it would be until 2021 that he's holding this position. And I said 6 to 8 months, but it might even be quicker at this point with the way Bramson's going ham. So we're going to jump into this article right now. And it's an article from The Guardian. And like I said, it has to do with Jes Staley and the attack from inside of the boardroom. So, this article was written by The Guardian. The author is Kalina Makertoff. She's a banking correspondent for the magazine. And the headline, Barclays attacked by activist investor over CEO's Epstein links. And remember, when we were talking about it, the other articles were saying, oh, it's because they're losing, they lost stock value, blah, 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 blah. No. Every single one of these CEOs who's connected to Jeffrey Epstein that steps down, it's directly related to the fact that they had a serious relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Don't let the media confuse you, okay? These people, look, Jes Staley is one of these guys who has tasted power. He's tasted what it means to be at the top, to run amongst these people. Do you really think that he'd be stepping down or going away quietly if it wasn't something like Jeffrey Epstein? He'd be holding on for dear life, but he knows he does not have any sort of high ground here. He knows that the position is lost and he can't keep this job. And it's coming, folks. It might even be quicker than the 6 to 8 months that I said. I might have overshot that even. All right, on to the article. Barclays is facing a fresh attack from the activist investor Edward Bramson after the bank revealed UK regulators are investigating its chief executive over links to the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Again, look, the regulation investigation is a big deal, there's no doubt, and they'll use that as the predicate for getting rid of him. But the fact of the matter is, this all has to do with Jeffrey Epstein, all of it. Bramson, who holds a 5.5% stake in Barclays through his investment vehicle, Sherborne Investors, said the investigation into Jes Staley's relationship with the disgraced financier was yet another embarrassment for the bank and the latest sign of poor governance by its board. This is exactly what a hostile takeover looks like, folks. This is how it occurs. And Barclays is certainly ripe for the picking right now, and Bramson understands that. And with Bramson being on the inside of the boardroom and going so hard against Barclays and Jes Staley, I knew that it wouldn't be long before we started to see this sort of stuff come out again. In a letter to Sherborne Investors, Bramson said, "Several months ago, we raised our concerns with you about the regulatory issues and the consequences for Barclays of the Epstein situation in the U.S. and, as it now turns out, in the U.K. as well. This is another example of governance weakness that has led inevitably to the recurrent public disappointments and embarrassments which have plagued Barclays for so long." So he's setting it up, right? what he's doing here with this letter is setting up his position once again to strengthen his position with other board members, shareholders, and trying to force Staley out. It is the latest in a long-run excuse me. It is the latest in a long-running battle between Barclays and Bramson, who has tried to force the group to scale back its investment banking division since building up a major stake in the bank in early 2018. The activist investor also tried to push his way onto the board last year, but failed to gain shareholder support. So as you can see, this has been an ongoing thing, like I said. Bramson has really been trying to wiggle his way into this board, and I think that this is going to be the vehicle that ends up getting him there. And if not Bramson, perhaps they'll come to some sort of agreement and put someone that Bramson wants on the board once Staley is removed. Maybe not as president, but they'll try and placate Bramson one way or the other. Barclays revealed that Staley was the subject of an investigation by the Financial Conduct Authority when it released full-year earnings last week. It said the investigation was focused on whether Staley had been sufficiently transparent about his relationship with Epstein, who died in prison in August 2019 while awaiting trial on charges of sex trafficking underage girls. And we know that he was not transparent about his relationship. He said that they were, oh, I knew him because of work, we weren't that close. Meanwhile, he's out on the island with them, they're palling around, that they're talking on the phone, that they're hanging out, without cameras around, I'm sure. Look, Staley was as connected to Epstein as the rest of these guys. And you see what's happened to the rest of them, all the people that have stepped down. And Staley's the next one up, folks. I'm telling you right now, there is no way this plays out until 2021. However, the inquiry was originally launched in December after emails between the two men were handed to UK regulators by their counterparts in the US. Staley's former employer, JP Morgan, supplied the emails to US authorities. Well, yeah, JP Morgan is trying to cover their ass at this point. They were involved in giving Epstein all sorts of crazy loans, and like I've said, and I keep this position, I stand behind this position, I don't have evidence to back it up, but I truly believe that JP Morgan and the other banks like Deutsche Bank were helping Epstein launder money. There's no way that anyone's going to convince me differently. These banksters are the worst. These banksters are the worst. Have you noticed that every time we talk about Epstein, not far behind, we talk about some scumbag banker? It comes less than 2 years after Staley was personally fined almost £650,000 for attempting to unmask a whistleblower at Barclays in 2016. I just don't even understand how this guy still has a job. The banking sector is rife with disgusting individuals, and if any business corporation type world needed a complete cleaning, it's the banking world, because these people are they're sick. Bramson has not yet raised his concerns about Staley's links to Epstein with the Barclays board, but has requested a meeting with the chairman, Nigel Higgins, following the announcement. And Higgins is between a rock and a hard place here, right? So if they get rid of Staley right now, it'll throw things into turmoil, and their stock prices are going to just tumble. And especially right now, considering what's going on with the coronavirus and how very close the whole entire world is to being shut down due to people being sick and not being able to be productive at work, well, the banks are definitely going to feel the blow. And, especially places like Barclays right now that are already under the microscope, I predict very rough waters for Barclays in the future. We are hopeful that the board will treat these matters seriously and that Mr. Higgins will be able to indicate what long-term governance changes the board will make to end this cycle of disruption, Shelbourne's letter said. Staley, who joined Barclays in 2015, has said he developed a relationship with Epstein in 2000 when he became the boss of JP Morgan's private bank, which counted Epstein among its wealthy customers. But the two men stayed in touch for more than 7 years after the financier, pedophile, was convicted for soliciting prostitution from a minor in 2008. these private banks too, the private banking division inside of these banks, oh, they're so corrupt. They are so epically corrupt. And the fact that Staley stayed friends with Epstein after the conviction is really the nail in his coffin, right? You can, at the very least, if you were friends with him prior to the conviction, you could at least argue that you had no idea what he was doing. Now, if people are going to believe you or not, that's another matter, but at least you can make that argument. After the fact, that argument, there's no argument there to make, right? You're hanging out with a convicted sex offender, a convicted child sex offender, and you have to answer for that. Staley even visited Epstein in Florida while he was still serving his sentence and out on work release in 2009, but said the relationship tapered off after he left J.P. Morgan in 2013. He made a final visit to Epstein's private Caribbean island with his wife in his final months of 2015, but says contact ceased by the time he joined Barclays in December of that year. Well, it reminds me of Prince Andrew. What did he go to the island to break up with Jeffrey Epstein? Sure seems like a lot of men have to go and break up with Jeffrey Epstein. Really? Here's an idea. The second somebody's convicted of child sex offenses, that's the second you stop hanging out with them. There's a little unsolicited advice, Mr. Staley. You should probably take it, though. The bank announced that it is moving its annual shareholder meeting this year to Glasgow, having traditionally held it in London. The meeting is likely to be dominated by questions over the investigation into Staley and a shareholder resolution urging Barclays to phase out financing to fossil fuel companies. Barclays said the change of location was meant to celebrate its new tech hub in the Scottish city. Barclays declined to comment on Bramson's letter. Yeah, of course they did. They know that they're in big trouble. Anyone that follows the market, anyone who follows what goes on in the boardrooms on Wall Street understands what's occurring here. This is a hostile push out. Staley is not long for this world, folks, not at all. He is going to be pushed out, and I said 6 to 8 months. I might have to revise that and make it in the next few months because it looks like things are heating up already. And this investors meeting is where the rubber is going to meet the road, and we're going to find out a lot more during that investors meeting for sure. All right, everybody, I'm on my way out to the Zorro Ranch and the Santa Fe Institute after that. I'll keep you guys updated to what's going on. I plan on taking pictures and some video, and I'll share all of that with you throughout the day. And once I get back to Vegas and I can go through everything and, have time to shoot it all out, I'll just dump everything that I have pretty much. So until later on today, I hope everybody has a fantastic day. And if you'd like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci at protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. And if you enjoy my work and you would like to help the podcast, you can do that by clicking on the GoFundMe link inside of the description box. All right, folks, I'll be back later on. Hope you all have a fantastic morning/afternoon.